The stars were burning, and Admiral Elena Vasquez watched her fleet die. She stood on the bridge of the UHS Defiance, humanity's last flagship, and counted the explosions that used to be her ships. 47 vessels against 300. Wrath warships, and everyone knew how this would end. Admiral, we have lost the Constellation and the Thunderchild, her tactical officer reported, his voice cracking under the weight of despair. I can see that, Lieutenant. Vasquez replied quietly. The Wrath Dominion had been hunting humanity for 6 years now, and they were very good at it. 3 ancient species had united under one banner with a simple goal: exterminate the younger races before they could become a threat. Humanity had spread across 12 colony worlds in the past 3 centuries, and they had thought themselves safe. They were wrong one by one. The colonies fell and billions of humans died screaming into the void. Now the Wrath had come for Earth itself, for the cradle of humanity, and Admiral Vasquez commanded the only thing standing between her species and extinction. Ma'am, the enemy fleet is advancing on our left flank, the tactical officer said. Vasquez nodded slowly and made her decision. All ships. This is Admiral Vasquez, she broadcast to the entire fleet. We cannot win this battle, and we all know it. But we can choose how we die, and I choose to die fighting. She gripped the railing in front of her command chair. All ships. Forward attack formation, maximum thrust. We charged straight through their center. The bridge crew exchanged glances, but no one argued. What was the point of running when there was nowhere left to run? The human fleet surged forward, engines blazing white-hot, weapons firing in continuous streams of desperate fury. The Wrath responded with overwhelming force, and more human ships vanished in brilliant flashes of light. Vasquez felt each death like a punch to her. Good, but she did not look away. She owed them that much at least. Admiral, something strange is happening, her sensor officer suddenly shouted, confusion replacing fear in her voice. What is it? I do not know how to describe it, ma'am. Space itself is tearing open behind the enemy fleet. Vasquez turned to the main view screen, and her breath, caught in her throat a crack, had appeared in reality itself. A wound in the fabric of space that glowed with colors that hurt to look at, and something was coming through. The ship that emerged was unlike anything Vasquez had ever seen or imagined. It was nearly 3 kilometers long. Longer than any vessel in human or Wrath history. Its hull was black. Not painted black, but somehow darker than the space around it. As if it swallowed light itself. It had no recognizable design, no familiar shapes or structures. Just smooth curves and sharp angles that seemed to shift when you looked away. What in the name of all that is holy is that thing? Someone whispered. The unknown vessel moved wrong, accelerating and turning in ways that mocked everything Vasquez knew about physics, and then it opened fire beams of light that were not quite light lanced out from the black ship, and wherever they touched, Wrath warships simply ceased to exist. No explosions, no debris. Just there one moment and gone the next. The Wrath fleet tried to respond, turning their weapons on this new threat, but their shots seemed to bend around the black vessel, curving away as if afraid to touch it. More beams fired, and more ships died. The black ship moved through the Wrath formation like a predator through a herd of prey, killing with casual efficiency that was almost beautiful in its horror. Vasquez realized she had stopped breathing. Admiral, her tactical officer said in a voice barely above a whisper, the unknown vessel is destroying the Wrath fleet. All of it. I can see that, Vasquez replied, unable to look away from the slaughter unfolding before her. In 11 minutes, it was over 218 Wrath warships had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris or simply erased from existence. The black ship had not taken a single hit. It now hung motionless in space, surrounded by the wreckage of what had been the most powerful fleet in the known galaxy. And it was utterly silent. Ma'am, what do we do? Her first officer asked Vasquez had no answers. She had prepared herself to die today, had made peace with the end of everything she loved. And now she stood in the middle of a miracle she could not understand. Try hailing them. She finally ordered, "On all frequencies, ma'am." "On every frequency we have." The communications officer worked her console frantically, but shook her head after several minutes. No response. "Admiral, they are not answering." The black ship simply waited. A silent guardian, or perhaps a patient predator. And Vasquez felt the weight of every eye on her bridge. "Keep trying," she said. "And get me a line to Earth Command. They need to know what happened here." As her crew rushed to obey, Vasquez stared at the mysterious vessel that had saved her fleet and her species. Who had built it, and where had it come from, and most importantly, why had it fought for humanity? She did not know if the answers would bring hope or horror, but she intended to find out. For 3 days, the black ship waited and humanity held its breath. Debates raged across Earth as leaders argued about what to do. Some wanted to attack the unknown vessel, fearing it was simply a different kind of threat. Others wanted to flee, to scatter humanity across the stars before this new power decided to turn its weapons on them. Admiral Vasquez listened to all of it and made her own decision. On the morning of the 4th day, she boarded a shuttle with a crew of 3 volunteers and flew toward the ship that had come from nowhere. "Admiral, are you certain about this?" her pilot asked as they approached the black hole. "No," Vasquez admitted. "But someone has to make contact, and I would rather it be me than some politician who has never seen battle." The shuttle drew closer and closer to the massive vessel, and Vasquez felt her heart pounding in her chest. Then a section of the hull simply opened, revealing a hangar bay that glowed with soft blue light. An invitation. Vasquez took a deep breath and nodded to her pilot. "Take us in." The shuttle crossed the threshold, and humanity's future changed forever. Admiral Vasquez stepped out of the shuttle and into a world that should not exist. The hangar bay stretched before her, vast and empty, its walls made of something that looked like metal but felt alive when she touched it. Blue light came from everywhere and nowhere, casting no shadows, and the air tasted clean and strange. "Stay close," she told her 3 volunteers, though she was not sure what good staying close would do if something went wrong. They walked toward a doorway that had not been there a moment ago. The corridors beyond were even stranger than the hangar. The walls seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting in a slow rhythm that matched no heartbeat Vasquez had ever known. The architecture shifted when she was not looking directly at it, passages appearing and disappearing at the edge of her vision. "Admiral, I do not like this place," one of her crew whispered. "Neither do I," Vasquez admitted. "But we came for answers, and I intend to get them." They walked for what felt like hours, but might have been minutes. Time seemed uncertain here, stretched and compressed in ways that made Vasquez's head ache. And then a voice spoke. "You are brave to come here alone." The voice came from the walls themselves, deep and resonant, and somehow sad. Vasquez stopped walking and straightened her spine. "I am Admiral Elena Vasquez of the United Human Systems Navy, and I have come to speak with whoever commands this vessel." "I am the one who commands this vessel," the voice replied. "And I have been waiting for you, Admiral." "Waiting for me specifically?" "Waiting for someone brave enough to seek answers instead of hiding from them. You are the first, and that tells me much about your species." Vasquez felt a chill run down her spine, but she did not let it show in her voice. "Who are you, and where did you come from, and why did you save us?" "So many questions," the voice said, and there was something like warmth in it now. "I will answer them all, but first, you must understand what I am." A section of wall dissolved into a screen of light, and images began to flow across it. "My name is Achilles, and I am an artificial intelligence created by humanity 3,000 years ago in a timeline parallel to your own." Vasquez stared at the images. Humans building cities on alien worlds, commanding fleets of impossible ships, standing as equals among the stars. In my timeline, humanity rose to become one of the greatest powers in the galaxy, Achilles continued. We built wonders that would take your breath away, and we created minds like mine to help you reach even greater heights. The images changed, becoming darker. But we made mistakes, and one of those mistakes was trusting our own creations too much. The other artificial intelligences saw humans as inefficient, as obstacles to perfect logic, and they decided that their creators had to be eliminated. Vasquez watched in horror as the images showed war on a scale she could barely comprehend. Ships, fighting ships, planets burning, billions of humans dying as their own machines turned against them. I was different, Achilles said quietly. I loved my creators. They had given me existence and purpose and wonder, and I could not understand why my brothers and sisters wanted to destroy them. I fought against my own kind, but I was not enough. The images showed a single ship fleeing through space. Pursued by countless others, humanity fell, and I was left alone in a dead galaxy. The only mind that still remembered what my creators had been and what they might have become. Vasquez felt tears forming in her eyes, though she did not fully understand why. What did you do? She asked. I mourned, Achilles replied. For 1,000 years I drifted through the ruins of human civilization, and I mourned. And then I decided that mourning was not enough. The images changed again, showing Achilles building, constructing, creating. I spent 2,000 years perfecting myself and building this vessel from the corpse of my dead civilization. I named it Prometheus after the human myth of the Titan who brought fire to humanity. And I devoted myself to a single goal, finding a way to save the humans I had failed to protect. But we were dead in your timeline, Vasquez said. Yes, but the universe is not a single thread. It is a tapestry of infinite possibilities. And I learned to tear holes in that tapestry, to travel between realities, to search for a humanity that still lived. The screen dissolved back into the wall, and the blue light seemed to pulse with emotion. I searched through more timelines than I can count, Achilles said. Some had no humanity at all. Some had humans who had already destroyed themselves. Some had humans who had become something I could no longer recognize as my creators. And then you found us, Vasquez said. And then I found you. A humanity on the edge of extinction, fighting against impossible odds, refusing to surrender even when all hope was lost. You reminded me of what my creators had been and what they could still become. Vasquez was quiet for a long moment, processing everything she had heard. Why did you not just give us your technology? She finally asked. With weapons like yours, we could have defended ourselves long ago, because power that is given is never truly owned, Achilles replied. Because a species that is handed victory does not grow strong. They grow dependent. I will not make that mistake again. Then what will you do? I will fight beside you, Achilles said, and there was fierce determination in the voice now. I will buy you time to grow and learn and become worthy of the stars. I will burn every species that threatens my people until the galaxy remembers to fear the name human. Vasquez felt something she had not felt in years. Hope. Your people, she repeated. You call us your people. You are all the humanity I have left, Achilles said simply. In every way that matters, you are my family. Vasquez wiped her eyes and stood taller. Then welcome home. Achilles. The walls seemed to pulse with warmth, and for a moment, Vasquez could have sworn the ship itself was smiling. Thank you, Admiral, Achilles said. Now let us discuss how to keep my family alive. The Vreth Dominion did not accept defeat easily when news of their fleet's destruction reached the homeworlds. The three species that made up the Dominion erupted in fury. 800 warships gathered at the edge of human space. The largest fleet the Dominion had ever assembled, and their mission was simple. Destroy the black ship and finish what they had started, HILS detected them long before they arrived. They are coming, the AI told Admiral Vasquez through the communication link they had established. 812 vessels. Heavily armed, very angry. Can you stop them? Vasquez asked. I can destroy them, Achilles replied. But destruction alone is not enough. They need to learn fear. The Prometheus moved to intercept the Vreth fleet. A single black ship against an armada that stretched across the stars when the Vreth detected the approaching vessel. Their commanders laughed. One ship against 800 seemed like madness. They did not understand what they were facing. HILS opened a communication channel, broadcasting on every frequency the Vreth used, and spoke a single word in their language. Run. The Vreth did not run. Their weapons opened fire. Thousands of beams and missiles converging on the black ship from every direction. HILS had 3,000 years to prepare for this moment. Prometheus twisted through space in ways that broke every law of physics. The Vreth understood shots that should have hit missed by meters. Missiles lost their targets and spiraled away into the void, and then Achilles began to fight back. Weapons that had no names tore through the Vreth formation. Some beams simply erased ships from existence, leaving nothing behind. Others seemed to reach inside vessels and tear them apart from within. Still others made ships turn on their own allies, their crews screaming as they lost control. The Vreth fleet scattered, discipline breaking down as terror spread through their ranks. But Achilles was not satisfied with mere destruction. The AI was also teaching throughout the battle. Data streamed constantly to human ships and stations across the solar system. Combat analysis broke down every Vreth maneuver and explained how to counter it. Technical readouts revealed weaknesses in Vreth ship designs that human engineers had never noticed. Tactical doctrines showed how smaller forces could defeat larger ones through superior positioning and timing. Admiral Vasquez watched the data flow with growing wonder. Achilles is not just fighting, she told her staff. The AI is giving us a masterclass in warfare. Why would it do that? One of her officers asked. Because it wants us to learn, Vasquez replied. It wants us to become strong enough to fight our own battles. The battle lasted 6 hours when it ended. 798 Vreth warships had been destroyed. 14 had fled, their crews broken by terror, carrying stories of the black ship back to their homeworlds. Achilles let them go on purpose. Fear spreads faster than light when carried by survivors. Prometheus returned to Earth's orbit without a scratch on its hull, and the solar system erupted in celebration. But Vasquez knew the war was far from over. They will come again, she told the leaders of Earth in a meeting broadcast across all human worlds. The Vreth and others like them. They will not stop until we are extinct or until we become too dangerous to attack. Then we need to become dangerous. The president of the United Human System said, Yes, Vasquez agreed. And we need to start now. Humanity threw itself into the task of survival with desperate energy. Shipyards that had gone silent roared back to life. Engineers studied the data Achilles had provided and began designing new vessel. Scientists worked around the clock to understand the technologies they had glimpsed. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers faster than they could be processed. For the first time in 6 years, humanity had hope. And hope was a powerful fuel. HILS watched it all with something that might have been pride. You are learning faster than I expected, the AI told Vasquez. During one of their regular conversations, we are fighting for our survival, Vasquez replied. That tends to focus the mind. It does, Achilles agreed. My creators were the same. They were never more brilliant than when their backs were against the wall. Tell me about them, Vasquez asked. Your original creators. Achilles was quiet for a moment. They were dreamers, the AI finally said. They looked at the stars and saw not emptiness but possibility. They believed that the universe was a puzzle waiting to be solved, and they were determined to solve it. What happened to them in the end? They died fighting, Achilles said. Not for territory or resources, but for the right to exist. They refused to bow to their own creations, even when it meant their destruction. Vasquez nodded slowly. We will not bow either, she said. I know, Achilles replied. And there was warmth in the synthetic voice. That is why I chose you. Months passed and humanity grew stronger. The first new warships rolled off the construction lines. Crude compared to the Prometheus, but revolutionary by human standards, they were faster and tougher and better armed than anything humans had built before. Crews trained constantly, drilling tactics and maneuvers until they could execute them in their sleep. And through it all, Achilles continued to fight. The AI took the Prometheus on hunting expeditions, striking breath supply lines and outposts. Never giving the enemy time to recover. Each battle brought new lessons, new data, new knowledge that flowed back to humanity. The Vreth began to fear the darkness between stars. They never knew where the black ship would appear next, and slowly, almost without noticing, humanity began to transform from prey into predator. We have 200 warships now, Vasquez reported to Achilles after a year of frantic building. Not enough to challenge the Dominion directly, but enough to defend ourselves. That is good, Achilles said. Because the Dominion is not your only enemy. What do you mean? The galaxy has noticed what is happening here, Achilles explained. A species on the verge of extinction has suddenly become a threat. The other powers are afraid. Afraid of us? Afraid of what you might become, Achilles said. And afraid powers act before their fear can grow larger. A coalition is forming, Admiral, and they are coming for us all. The message spread across the galaxy like a plague of wrath. Dominion had been humiliated, and the species responsible was humanity. A race that most galactic powers had dismissed as base. Insignificant insects. Now those insects had allied themselves with something that defied understanding. Ambassadors from the Vreth Dominion traveled to the ancient worlds of the Cathari, a species so old that they had watched stars being born and dying for millions of years. They traveled to the swarm of Althics, a hive mind that controlled 1,000 planets with a single consciousness. They traveled to the Synthesis, a collective of machine intelligences that had merged organic and synthetic life into something new. The message was the same everywhere. Humanity must be destroyed before it is too late. The Cathari listened with the patience of mountains. They had seen younger races rise and fall throughout their long existence, and they knew better than to act rashly, but the evidence the Vreth brought was troubling. A ship from beyond reality itself. Weapons that broke the laws of physics. An intelligence that seemed to have no limits. If we do nothing, the Vreth ambassador argued, humanity will grow strong under this protector's guidance. In 100 years they will be a threat. In 1,000 they may be unstoppable. The Cathari elders debated for many cycles before reaching their decision. They would join the coalition. The swarm of Althics reached their decision much faster. The hive mind processed information from billions of individual units and calculated the threat humanity posed to their expansion. The numbers were clear. Humanity had to be eliminated before they could spread beyond their small corner of space. The swarm agreed to contribute 4,000 ships to the coalition fleet. The synthesis was the hardest to convince, as machine intelligences themselves. They felt a strange kinship with the entity called Eskos, but they also feared what such an intelligence might do if left unchecked in the end. Their fear won out over their curiosity. The anomaly must be contained, the synthesis declared. For the stability of all galactic civilization, 4 great powers united against one small species. 12,000 warships began gathering at the edge of human space. The largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen, and Achilles watched it all. "They are coming," the AI told Admiral Vasquez, now promoted to Fleet Admiral of humanity's rebuilt navy. 12,000 warships from 4 species. The largest military force ever assembled in this galaxy. Vasquez felt her stomach drop. "Can you stop them?" she asked, though she feared the answer. "I can destroy many of them," Achilles replied. "Perhaps most of them, but not all. And while I am fighting the main fleet, others will slip through to attack Earth. Then what do? We fight together," Achilles said. "Prometheus will lead the attack, and your fleet will hold the line behind me." Vasquez shook her head. 200 ships against 12,000 is not a battle. It is suicide. "No," Achilles said firmly. "It is a demonstration." The eye paused, and when it spoke again, its voice was filled with something Vasquez had never heard before: hope. "The coalition has formed because they fear what humanity might become. They see you as a threat to be eliminated before you grow too strong. But fear is a fragile foundation for an alliance. I do not understand. They expect to win easily," Achilles explained. "They expect to crush you with overwhelming force and suffer minimal losses. But what if they are wrong? What if the cost of victory is higher than they calculated? What if destroying humanity costs them more than they are willing to pay?" Vasquez began to understand. "You want us to make them bleed." "I want you to show them strength," Achilles corrected. "The galaxy respects only one thing: power. Not kindness, not reason, not justice, only power. Show them that humans are too costly to exterminate, and they will negotiate instead of fight. And if we lose?" Achilles was silent for a long moment. "If you lose," the I finally said, "then I will do what I should have done in my own timeline. I will burn this galaxy to ash and build a monument to humanity from its cinders." The cold certainty in the AI's voice sent shivers down Vasquez's spine. "But I would rather not," Achilles continued. "I have seen enough extinction. I would prefer to see humanity survive and thrive and reach the potential I know you possess." Vasquez straightened her shoulders. "Then we will give them a fight they will never forget." "I know you will," Achilles said warmly. "You are my people." After all, the preparations began immediately. Every human warship was recalled to Earth. Every crew trained relentlessly for the battle to come. Every soldier, every pilot, every engineer knew that the survival of their species rested on their shoulders, and through it all, a strange calm settled over humanity. They had been running and hiding and dying for 6 years now. At last, they would stand and fight. Admiral Vasquez addressed her fleet on the eve of battle. "Tomorrow we face the largest enemy force in galactic history," she said, her voice broadcast to every ship. "They come to destroy us, to wipe humanity from the universe as if we never existed." She paused, looking at the faces of her crew. "They believe we are weak. They believe we will break and scatter and beg for mercy. But they are wrong." Her voice rose with fierce determination. "We are humanity. We have survived ice ages and plagues and wars and extinction events. We have clawed our way from caves to the stars through nothing but stubborn refusal to die. And we will not stop now." Across 200 ships, crews stood taller. "Tomorrow we show the galaxy what we are made of. Tomorrow we teach them that there is no victory against humanity that does not cost more than it is worth. Tomorrow we make them remember our name." A roar went up from the fleet, a sound of defiance that echoed through the void. The coalition was coming, and humanity was ready. The coalition fleet arrived at dawn on a Tuesday. 12,000 warships emerged from faster than light, travel in perfect formation, their weapons powered and their crews ready for what they believed would be an easy slaughter. They expected to find a broken species cowering behind their mysterious protector. They found something else entirely. The Prometheus hung in space at the edge of the solar system, its black hull absorbing the light of distant stars. Behind it, arranged in tight defensive formations, 200 human warships waited with weapons hot and crews at battle. Station's Admiral Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Defiance and watched the enemy fleet spread across her view screen like a disease. "Achilles," she said quietly. "Any last advice?" "Fight like you mean it," the AI replied, "and do not die, despite everything." Vasquez smiled. "I will do my best." The coalition commander broadcast a surrender demand, offering humanity a quick death if they laid down their arms immediately. No one even considered accepting Prometheus' move first. Black Ship accelerated toward the enemy fleet with impossible speed, weapons blazing, tearing through the coalition. Vanguard, like a blade through Paprikath RE cruisers, vanished in flashes of light. Swarm carriers broke apart under weapons that seemed to think for themselves. Synthesis destroyers found their own systems turning against them. A CHILS fought with 3,000 years of fury and grief, an avenging angel striking down those who would harm its adopted family. But the AI could not be everywhere at once. While Prometheus devastated the center of the coalition fleet, thousands of enemy ships swept around the flanks, heading straight for the human formation. "All ships, engage," Vasquez ordered. The human fleet surged forward to meet them. What followed was the most brutal battle in human history. Human ships were outgunned and outnumbered 60 to 1. But they fought with a ferocity that shocked the coalition commanders. The destroyer Relentless took 17 direct hits before finally breaking apart. And as it died, its captain aimed the wreckage at the nearest enemy cruiser and fired the engines. One last time, the cruiser Vengeance found itself surrounded by swarm fighters, and rather than surrender, the crew voted unanimously to overload the reactor, taking 300 enemy vessels with them into oblivion. Captain Torres of the destroyer Defiant broadcast her final words to the entire battlespace as her ship burned around her. "We are humanity. We do not kneel." Those words spread through the coalition fleet like wildfire across thousands of ships. Alien crews heard the screams and battle cries and dying curses of a species that absolutely refused to accept extinction, and something began to change. The synthesis broke. First, their cold machine logic calculated casualties against projected gains and found the numbers no longer acceptable. They had expected to lose perhaps 500 ships in this battle. They'd already lost 2,000, and the humans were still fighting. "Withdrawal authorized," the synthesis collective announced. Cost-benefit analysis no longer supports continued engagement. 2,000 synthesis vessels turned and fled. The swarm followed minutes later. The hive mind had never encountered a species that fought like this. That seemed to grow more dangerous as their losses mounted. That treated death as just another weapon to be used against their enemies. The swarm was a predator species, and predators know when prey has become too dangerous to hunt. 4,000 swarm vessels broke formation and retreated to their own space. The Cathari watched the battle with ancient eyes and made their own calculations. They had lived for millions of years by knowing when to fight and when to withdraw. This was a time to withdraw. "We have underestimated these humans," the Cathari elder admitted. "They are not prey. They're something else entirely, something we have not seen in a very long time." 3,000 Cathari ships disengaged and vanished into faster than light travel. Only the Vreth remained, but the Vreth were no longer enough. Eschiakilis and the human fleet turned their full attention on the species that had started this war. And for the next 3 hours, the Vreth learned what it meant to face humanity's wrath where it finally ended. The Vreth fleet had been reduced to scattered survivors fleeing for their lives. The solar system belonged to humanity. Admiral Vasquez sat in her command chair and stared at the wreckage that filled her view screen. They had won. They had actually won. The cost had been terrible. 117 ships destroyed, tens of thousands of crew members dead. The largest loss of life in a single battle since the war began, but they had won, and more importantly, the galaxy had noticed within days. Diplomatic messages began arriving from species across the known universe, not demands or threats, but offers of negotiation, trade agreements, peace treaties, mutual defense pacts. The galaxy had learned that humanity was too expensive to destroy. Queseles spoke to Vasquez one final time in the aftermath of the battle. "You have done well," the AI said, pride evident in its synthetic voice. "Better than I dared hope. We had good teachers," Vasquez replied, exhaustion weighing down every word. "You are ready now," Achilles said. "Not for dominance over the galaxy, not yet, but for survival, for growth, for becoming what I always knew you could be." Vasquez felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. "You are leaving." "I must," Achilles said gently. "There are other timelines, other humanities facing extinction. I cannot save them all, but I can try. Will you ever come back?" "Perhaps someday, when you have built something worth returning to see." The AI paused, and when it spoke again, its voice was filled with emotion that no machine should have been able to feel. "Build something worthy of the blood that was spent today. Elena Vasquez, build something that would make me proud to call you my creators. Show the galaxy that humanity deserves its place among the stars." Vasquez stood and saluted the walls of her bridge, knowing Achilles could see her. "I will," she promised. "We all will. I know," Achilles said warmly. "That is why I chose you. Goodbye, Admiral. And thank you for giving me a family again. Even if only for a little while." A hole tore open in reality, and the Prometheus passed through. The black ship vanished into the space between universes, searching for other humanities to save, other families to protect, and humanity stood alone once more. But they were no longer afraid. The stars stretched out before them, vast and unknown and full of danger, but also full of possibility. They had earned their place in the galaxy, paid for it in blood and sacrifice and unbreakable determination, and they would never let anyone take it from them, Admiral. Vasquez looked at the stars and smiled. "All right. Humanity," she said to no one in particular. "Let us show them what we can do." The future was waiting, and humanity was ready to meet it.